Hugh, so we talked last year and you said it was one of the best days of your life. And now
Yes.
we have season 2 happening. How do you feel right now?
Well, I feel great because I heard from Renner and he just sent me a video and he was just funny and profane. And that's really what made my day. It's like, oh my God, he's back. And that's really what it is. And so this is just, it couldn't be better.
That beats even the show turning out and being such a searing. Good news.
Yeah, I mean, he's a brother. He's like family. And at first I wanted just to fly to where he was at and then to get a video where it's, hey, and he's just funny and shit that I can't tell you, but profane. And I just went, okay, he's back.
Tell me about working with Jeremy, I guess, on screen and off screen, and what makes him just an amazing actor and someone to work with.
Well, it's, because I produced the show and I created it and it's so close to me and I'm so passionate about it. And to watch him, he's got another gear that he can shift into. He's like he's like Robert De Niro in Raging Bull. He is able to find the humanity, the humor, the intense intelligence behind this character that has the shit kicked out of him. And he finds the beauty and the ugliness of some of these situations. And he, as a person, is generous and warm, and the crew loves him, and he's just such an authentic dude. And he brings his mom in to visit and his family. And I just, it's an exceptional place to be. And also, he's the lead on the most dangerous show in television, this Mayor of Kingstown. And so I couldn't be more grateful to be working with him.
Obviously, the show is so personal to you. You've been working on it for over 10 years. And you grew up being around a lot of prisons. How do you think that environment shaped you and then made the show so personal?
Well, I think some of these situations, you've got to think about it. You're living in a prison town and, the paper or the news on any given day is, oh, we've got this serial killer who's just, for example, killed a bunch of children and we're parking them in your prison, in your house. I mean, that kind of brutal ugliness and human experience, it can't help but bleed into our perfectly cultivated lives on the other side of our TVs and newspapers, and it affects us all, and it affects every family and the people in the prisons and outside of the prisons in those cities. It's crime and punishment and the collateral damage, and it affects us all personally, mentally, emotionally. And even if you think it doesn't, it's, well, how are you desensitized? And, this particular show has that real life kind of velocity. It's the speed of life and the unpredictability that, that Taylor Sheridan, to his credit, has captured. And, his storytelling is world class, and his authenticity and his ability to get to the core of the truth. And, he is uncompromising, and his storytelling is uncomfortable. And we are looking at the informal economy of drugs and crime. And in that, with Miriam, for example, or Renner's character, you have to see the heart. And Dianne Wiest will tell you this, the hope. And that is what makes it such a beautiful show amidst the brutality.
You mentioned, working with Taylor Sheridan, and obviously you guys have been friends for so long, and you've been able to watch him. You've seen a lot of people in the industry, but what makes him, as you call, a force of nature? What makes Taylor Sheridan a unique man and just this gifted storyteller?
He is fearless, and he knows he's right. To watch that guy never waver. I used to go to his apartment in LA when we were both broke, and he was coaching me, and he'd have 10 clients lined around the block. He's coached so many, successful actors and stars that he doesn't even talk about it. But what's funny is then I drive into his compound in Texas, fast forward to 10 years later, and he's got his own ranch, but that dude hasn't changed. And that's what makes him him. He's always been, he's had dreams, and he still dreams because he writes these great scripts, and he's got great ideas, and he's got such perseverance But what makes him world class is that he is himself, and he doesn't apologize, he doesn't compromise, and he really, what it is he inspires the rest of us, you know, because what people forget is he was a teacher at the end of the day. You know, he was coaching other people, and he, as a teacher, and I'm his mentee and his student, and he was my mentor and still is. It's like there is a compassion that is underlying with all his work, you know, and this wasn't handed to him. He fought for it and he put in his time, but it is that compassion that is underneath it, and that understanding of the underdog that makes him unique and makes him a fucking force to be reckoned with.
Heck yeah. And I think one thing that makes this show unique is it's this action filled, and it's very like interesting, but it has this like personal depth to it. And when you guys were kind of creating the show, you know, 10 years ago, you spent the last decade fighting for it, you know, again, the season 1 out. Tell me about developing season 2, and how many of those ideas were sitting there, you know, a few years ago, and how were you able to kind of get those ideas out for season 2? And
yeah, I mean, that's a good question, but the simple answer is the pressure was the season 1 to get that up and on the air, and that was it. And Taylor and I would go and we'd work on what prison was that again, and why were the guards, why was that a dumping ground for bad guards? So we'd be two guys who'd always be talking about, and then what happens? And then what happens? And he's such a curious dude that he'd go, so what would happen if this happens? So we'd get into it. So along the way, we built out, you know, enough work for 10 seasons. So the difficult part was getting it up and rolling for season 1. But the exciting part is now implementing all of those ideas that we've had sitting, you know, in that drawer in his apartment in LA for 10 years, to moving to Texas, to now we get to use everything. Now we get to implement the full arsenal of our creativity.
There's lots of potential for season 3 and moving forward.
Yes.
There's obviously been struggles between getting this show on the road. Like, what's the advice you would give yourself 10 years ago? What's the advice you would give yourself even maybe 4 or 5 years ago when you're like, I'm not sure if this is happening?
It's the same advice Taylor and I always had for each other, just as artists. You never, ever give up. That is the name of the game. You know, we are dreamers, we persevere, but you always get up when you're knocked down, always. And it is that relentlessness that will, make your dreams come true. You just can't give up. It could take, you don't know how long it'll take, but you have to fight. You know, you've got to fight. You got to be able to take the punches. You've got to be able to pivot. You've got to be able to, find your way. And in that, you've got to also be loyal. And Taylor Sheridan is the most loyal motherfucker I've ever met in my life. You know, he is it. And next to me. And that is what it is. You build your own team, you know, when nobody else will believe you, will support you, will go out of their way or pick up your, help you in any way. You know, you've got this core of people who believe in you, and Taylor was that, and I'm that for him.
To get us excited for season 2, what's some things that we should be looking out for, and reason we need to tune into every one of these episodes?
It's unpredictable. It's raw. It's uncompromising. This is uncomfortable storytelling. This is the most dangerous show on television, with performances from Toby Bentifa to Jeremy Renner to Dianne Wiest to Emma Laird to Taylor Hanley to myself. It is all of us in this world, in a season 2. Also, there's a confidence in a season 2 that this world, and as actors, you are ready, and it's explosive, and it is hypnotic. It has a velocity that is unrelenting.
Well, let's go. Thank you so much, Hugh, for taking the time, and we're excited for season 2.
Great to see you again, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, ciao.